Hello and welcome back to another exciting podcast of American Pylon, joined by my counterparts here, James Thomas Fanning IV, Tyler Combs, our producer David Grayson behind the tech, and a special guest tonight, my brother Jonathan Mehall, joining us on set from another podcast, Getting Tossed. So welcome to the set, John.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Yeah,
it's
glad
good to
to
be
have
here.
Yeah, looking good tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
Stop that.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, part of that has to do with Georgia football. And then we're going to take a look at kind of the rest of the landscape around the Bulldogs and the rest of college football. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to our partners at In We Go. We've talked about them on this show before, but for just $30 a month, In We Go gives you unlimited access to events in and around the city. Now live in Phoenix, Denver, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C., and soon to be in Florida. So if you like checking out different sporting events, brewery tours, things like that, be sure to check out In We Go. And now for just a limited time, plug in the promo code Pylon into the promo box for $10 off your first month at In We Go.
You can tour this week. You can take a tour of 2 Chainz Pink Trap House, but it's haunted for Halloween.
I saw that.
Haunted Pink Trap House.
That's very cool.
Sounds pretty fun. I might try and check it out.
Yeah, I did go to the game at Mercedes-Benz this past weekend for Falcons versus the Bucks. It was pretty entertaining. I mean, it was
a good game.
Yeah, it was standing room only. We made our way up kind of to the middle level and then stood a little. I think we were at like the 35 or something. Watched the game from there. It was a good time, and that was Natalie's. I went with the girlfriend. That was Natalie's first NFL game.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. That would have been the most Falcons thing ever if they had managed to lose that game 33-32.
Yeah,
at the last minute.
I don't think anybody would have been surprised there.
Nope.
But
a lot of Tampa players, it looked like that was their first football game too on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very
That was
true.
an ugly game.
All right, so we're going to jump into Georgia football, and we're going to talk, of course, about this game this past weekend against LSU in the Bayou. And you guys were out there. David, Tyler, Jim made the trek. First of all, let's start off on a positive note, because I want to know how the trip went. From everything that I've heard, a lot of fun. But tell me, when did you guys get out there? Where were you staying? What all did you end up doing? Did you go to Bourbon Street, or what was the deal?
Yeah, we got out there Thursday night. Well, Tyler got there Thursday afternoon. I got there Thursday night. So we just hit Bourbon Street Thursday night, just kind of hanging out. And then Friday, we had the whole day. Also went to Pat O'Brien's Patios. Mm-hmm. Which was pretty fun. It looked like it was rented out by Georgia fans. There was nothing but red and black there, which was pretty cool. Just hung out in New Orleans and then took a bus with Dog Days on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it was
cool.
It was fun. What made it? I mean, New Orleans is always fun. I don't think it's a New Orleans trip without a trip to Bourbon Street, and we stayed on Bourbon Street just down the way from the bars, so it made it easy access to debauchery and fun. I guess the funnest part to me was seeing how much red and black there was. And we always reference Notre Dame because that was kind of the kickoff as to how well we traveled under Kirby's tenure. It felt just like that. I mean, it was just flooded red and black. UGA even had their own parade down Bourbon Street on a Friday afternoon. Wow. So it was a fun time to seeing everybody, running into people you haven't seen in a while, seeing people.
Yeah, it was neat. It was like being downtown Athens, like junior year. Seeing people you haven't seen since freshman year, since we graduated.
Not knowing who you would see, then finding out what everyone was doing for which tailgate, what they were doing for the game, how they were going, where they were watching. So it was fun to catch up with people that you didn't expect to see, and just to see again how Dog Nation just supports his team and Kirby. It's fun that the interest is there. It's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
And we also the tailgate that we took. It started at the Superdome where the Saints play. Mm-hmm. We got to have beers and mimosas on the field before the game, before we loaded the buses and drove to.
And BAT attempts. They had that set up.
Little station set up. It was pretty fun.
Did you guys give it a shot?
We did. It wasn't pretty. Tyler kicked out of his shoe.
Yeah, I didn't have my shoe signed. That's my only excuse.
Did you get it through the uprights?
No, wide left.
Yeah, producer Dave went wide left too.
Yep, sure did.
From how far out?
PAT,
Like
20,
a PAT.
20 yards.
Oh,
Listener,
that as well as
listener,
Mason Crosby then.
Cole Erickson did
Yeah.
split one though. He had a good kick.
He
Hey,
did,
you guys
yeah.
could be professional
Yeah,
kickers. For
whatever he
the
gets
Green
paid,
Bay
I'll
Packers.
Sign him
take
up.
half of that.
Yeah, they're fools. I would have done that for a lot less.
Yeah, but no, it was fun. Speaking of that tailgate, we did Dog Days tailgate. We started off in the Superdome on the field, which was just after Drew Brees broke the record. So that was just kind of cool to be in that stadium, get to see it. Not really for a game day or not really for a game experience, but just a tailgate there with all Dogs fans. They had the DJ. They had a guy playing saxophone with the DJ. It was really cool. They had some interactive stuff with the PAT. You could throw footballs. And then I thought the real cool part was after we left and that we were heading to Baton Rouge from New Orleans. We had a police escort from Baton Rouge all the way to New Orleans, or that's vice versa, from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. So if you can picture this, whenever you leave from Atlanta, for some local listeners, when you go to Athens, imagine going down 316 and hopping on the opposite side of 316 with 50 buses with police escort around you.
And driving the wrong
pushing
way.
Pushing everyone off
Yeah.
the wrong
Just
side
get
of
out of the way.
And we rolled right up probably 200, 300 yards from the stadium, set up and had this little town and village of just red and black and tents and big screen TV and jambalaya barbecue. It was very cool. Worth every
really
every
well done.
penny.
Shout out Dog Days.
What's that?
Oh yeah, there is a video.
Yeah, there's an American Pylon video short exclusive that producer Dave put together with
It's on the YouTube channel, I
a bunch
believe.
of videos from the week. I took a bunch of pictures, but my camera was upwards, so we couldn't use them. David told us to take
a
them in
rookie
landscape,
mistake.
and I just didn't listen. So,
Portrait, not landscape. But yeah,
some special features maybe to come.
But up into the game, and even after the game, we did have a good time.
So what was the atmosphere like going into the game? I mean, obviously you're walking into a hostile environment, a big SEC matchup. What was the fan base like for LSU? I mean, were they pretty receptive? Were they, I don't want to.
I didn't have anybody be mean to me. I felt like everybody I talked to was pretty excited for the game. I don't feel like there's a real rivalry between us and them. It was just an exciting event to be a part of because we just play them not very often.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, our tailgate was all red and black, so it wasn't. I guess before the game, it wasn't much intermingling with the enemy. But it was a cool atmosphere. I mean, I will say riding in on that police escort, like I mentioned earlier, it was funny passing all of the LSU fans sitting in their game day traffic. We saw a couple of, giving us a number one, letting us know how welcome we were. So that was fun. But as far as any kind of verbal abuse or anything thrown our way, nothing was too bad. It was exciting. The stadium was very loud. I thought it was very loud. It was very tall. I thought it looked good, looked great from the outside. So we can definitely see where it gets its intimidation factor.
Do you think it would have been even more exciting as a night game, or were you pretty happy to be there just in
I'm
general?
glad it wasn't a night game because
That's what
I
I
can't
kept
even
saying.
imagine what the score was.
Yeah. After the game, I said, I am glad this wasn't a night game. Because before leading up, selfishly, that's what I wanted. I wanted a undefeated LSU, undefeated Georgia night game, just to add it to the list. But I am glad because I think it would have gotten a little more. I think I could see it getting a little more out of hand from the fans' point of view and the game's point of view as well.
And we also sat firmly in the Georgia section.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked to some other people there that were sitting amongst LSU fans that said it was a little chippier.
Yeah, and we actually saw a few of them. One in particular, but we saw some people exchanging some
words.
4 letters like work.
It was annoying after the game
annoying after the game.
because they were just like, "Oh, Bulldogs, go Dogs!" Like,
Yeah, they love that. I mean, even it wasn't. We talked to a few that were really nice, really good.
Yeah,
They're like,
everyone was
y'all
nice
take care
today.
of Florida. We'll take care of Bama, and we'll meet y'all again in Atlanta.
That's
Okay,
fine.
That
sure,
was cool.
we'll do that.
A lot of them were saying to us on the way out, they were like, "Hey, y'all played a good game," and we were all like,
No, we
no,
didn't.
no, we didn't."
Don't
I
give
don't
us
know what
that.
game you watched. But
I know you're being nice, but don't lie.
yeah, don't patronize
Yeah.
us.
But no, I mean, really walking out, I think because the game was so bad, it wasn't such like a, it wasn't go down to the fourth quarter, sadly. I mean, it didn't go down to the wire, so it wasn't too chippy. I felt like it was out of hand pretty early on in the game to where we gave up in a sense. So atmosphere-wise, I'm not sure I would have wanted that. It would have added to the experience, but obviously we want the win, and we would have loved to march out of there with them being a little chippy. And,
that would have been
having
worth
some
it
words.
had we won.
When we got back to New Orleans, walking down Bourbon Street that Saturday night, it was significantly less red and black, and we were getting everything. I got told War Eagle by somebody who they just lost to
You
Tennessee.
guys lost to Tennessee.
Yeah.
today.
So there was that. I got some Roll Tides. Go Tigers. How about them dogs? So
Yeah.
people were out there chirping, but it wasn't nothing that really felt unfriendly or unfamily friendly.
No, and the bus ride back, everybody was in pretty. I think everybody was we had gone all that way. People didn't want to give up on the night.
I will say that.
Bus ride back was pretty lit.
It affected me.
still.
I mean, when the game was going on, when it ended, I was in pretty sour mood. I didn't want to talk about it. Had some people call me to talk about it. Told them I didn't want to. And then after being on the bus for probably 30 minutes, I said, you know what? We're here. We're having a good time. Other people on the bus maybe don't care as much, but they're rallying. They're having a good time. So, why not?
I think the best part of the bus was when we didn't have an aux cord or Bluetooth or anything. So we were trying to figure out like what music to listen to, and somebody was like, well, let's just sing, and it was kind of quiet, and somebody was like, in West Philadelphia, and we did the whole Fresh Prince theme song, just totally a cappella. The whole bus joined in. It was just pretty cool. And then we did Don't Stop Believing, which you can see in producer Dave's video short.
There you go.
Which was on tempo with the real song.
I saw
Oh,
that.
really? Oh,
That
yeah.
was good.
Shout
Good
out Georgia
overlay.
fans. Cool.
But that's where the happy feelings.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
say.
now we
let's-
have to talk about
Let's
the
go
game.
ahead and
This
let's
is
get
gonna
into the
be a
game.
bummer.
I mean, there's no real way to beat around the bush on this. This is frankly embarrassing. And I mean, we talked about this prior to the game, that we wanted to go into LSU's house and we wanted to have all of our ducks in a row. We looked back at past performances and thought, well, we don't want, we looked at a tale of two halves, right? A failure of execution and a failure of coaching. And I think that we had all anticipated that if anything was going to go wrong, it was going to be a failure of execution on the field. But I can't even sit here and say that that was really the case, because I think that there was a serious departure from the game plan that we've become accustomed to seeing with Kirby Smart and some of his other coordinators. And I think a lot of us were scratching our heads with some of the decisions that were made. And it started off quick.
Yeah, it started with that fake field goal. I think the game took on a really weird feeling just from the beginning of that. We were in the stadium watching it. It was kind of like, that's not what we do.
Mm-mm. Yeah. I would say, I agree. I mean, marching down, looking, they went down and scored first. So I think the biggest thing is that first big initial play. We had them on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They came out and went for it and had that bust. We had some.
Was that the sneak?
No, it was. They ran up the middle. We kind of had an all-out blitz, and Natraz ended up missing the tackle. They get it down to like the 4-yard line, and they're able to. We hold them from. No, I'm sorry, I have that confused. But they had that big pass. That's what it was. They picked on Tyson Campbell, had that big play, that big pickup, and went and scored a field goal. We hadn't seen that all year yet. Not versus, granted, we've played what we would say better quarterbacks in Drew Lock, more higher power offenses, guys who passed the ball around a little more efficiently than LSU. And that was kind of the first, they're doing it. They're busting the big play. They're keeping it open. They're going to keep us honest. They're going to give themselves room to run, and they did that. And I think one thing we did not handle well over the whole course of the game would be tempo. I think there was several times we saw where we could not get set quick enough,
especially on those 4th down
and
short.
They just
were
came
4
out.
for 4 on
They
4th
came
down.
out 5 for 5. They came out.
5 for 5.
They came out so aggressive. It was almost like they called timeout once on 4th down to figure it out and came out and punt after that. That's the only time they did so. They were just they had their mind made up.
Just
if it was going to
automatic.
be 4th and 3, 2nd or 1, whatever in that amount of distance, excuse me, they were going for it. They just didn't think about it. They lined up. They had a play ready to roll and just went for it every time, and we couldn't stop them. And I guess that gassed our defense. And to their credit, I think we were told and we read kind of how thin they were on defense, and that was a good way to negate that. They never had to really dip into their defensive depth because, hell, it felt like they were on the field the majority of the time, and they controlled the game by marching on 4th down, 4th down, 4th down. 3rd down did not matter. They made it manageable. Call Joe Burrows what you want. I know we kind of talked about how inefficient of a passer he was, and he still was. I think
He was 50%.
Yeah.
That's a goofy thing. Like, if you had looked at his stat line before the game, you'd have been like, we're definitely going to win the game.
Yeah.
He was exactly who we thought he was. A 50% passer for 200 yards, no touchdown, but we never saw them rushing for 275 yards
right.
on us.
And that's maybe something we did kind of see coming because, again, I think the story coming away from this game overall defensively is Kirby has masked our inefficiency at run defense very well to this point. We have always masked it under the illusion of, okay, well, what we implemented on defense worked. We took away the big play. We allowed them to have some of their rushing yards, but we can still score. We can control the clock. We could not control the clock. They went up tempo on us. They hit the big plays, which allowed them to run. So it wasn't like the Auburn game of last year where we were, muffing punts and, kind of doing, some injuries, having a sack fumble, and really killing us with penalties. Because, penalties weren't the issue. Turnovers really weren't the issue. It was a turnover late, I know, but it wasn't like it was we couldn't hold on to the ball. We were not efficient, and we weren't ready for the tempo. and we allowed the big
That's
play.
what I was saying on Sunday on the way back that to me that game was more discouraging than the Auburn game last year because the Auburn game last year they just came out with their hair on fire and we really never had a chance. We fell behind quick and it was just over. And sometimes in college football you have days like that. This game just felt like more they beat us the way we like to beat teams. They made us quit. It didn't seem like we wanted to be out there anymore in the fourth quarter, which we haven't seen a Kirby-led team really look like since, maybe a little bit his first year, but definitely not in 2017.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, and I went back and watched it like I have most of our games, and it was a painful one to watch. The other ones have been easier because you can rewatch the highlights and kind of watch what helped set up. And we really, it's not like in Auburn we definitely hurt us with some turnovers and penalties. In this game, it was certainly like execution. Look at the big play with Tyson Campbell. They convert into points there. They pick on a younger receiver. They like their matchup there. And then on I think we came down, settled for the fake punt or fake field goal. Excuse me. That's not our game. They didn't get it. Yeah. Then they come down. We get them on 4th and 1. They bust a big run, a big miss by Natrez Patrick. They had that big run that rumbles down to the 4-yard line. Convert that into a touchdown. And then they come right back out when we go 3 and out. They come right back on offense. And we have that busted coverage with J.R. Reed and Tyson Campbell. And they have that big play to the right. Probably went for 50, 60 yards. They go down there. Luckily, they settled for a field goal, but it's just uncharacteristically big plays in 3 back-to-back drives for LSU that resulted in 13 points, and we just couldn't get it moving. I mean, we saw on that second drive we were moving. Holyfield and Swift were looking great. I mean, they were running over people, making people miss. I mean, we seemed to be clicking then. The offensive scheme was working there. Chaney seemed to have us in the flow. Then when we get down to the red zone, we throw 3 balls. Now the first throw in the red zone, Fromm missed a completely wide open Terry Godwin to the left on the slant. I mean, he was wide open. It was a touchdown of 6 points. So we just missed that.
And
he didn't even target him. He didn't even target him. He threw Ridley to the right, came out, overthrew Mecole, came out, hit Mecole in the hands. Then guy made a good defensive play, and that was just when we settled. And then, to me, that was that right there almost. And I know Kirby's spoken against this, but to me, that is what mentally led into our inefficiencies in the game. We have this great drive. I mean, we are marching downfield. We are running down their throat, running over people, making people miss. I mean, we look efficient and we look violent. We look great. And then we go down there and then we come away with 0 points. To me, I'm not a coach. This is why Kirby makes some money. So he gets, every play is different. Every drive is even, is one, it stands alone, depending on the looks you see. But to me, that's just when your team doesn't get rewarded for that kind of drive on the road, when you can tie the game up and you think you're the better team.
You're talking about in the beginning with a fake.
Yeah, that right there.
When you have that long of a drive on the road in a hostile environment like that, you got to take the points when you.
Yeah, and it's 3-0. It's your first chance to score. And if you think you're the better team, go out there, kick the ball, get points, and play ball. Go from there. But to go down there and not get rewarded, and then that not only doesn't give us points, that ignited their crowd. I mean, they were pumped, they were fired up, and then came back down the field and scored. So I
think it fooled everybody in the stadium and everybody watching except for the special teams of LSU. I mean, because everybody's sitting there. I mean, I remember I was at a beer fest watching this at Turner Field on the big screen, and I remember that play, and I'm just thinking, like, why is that even like a consideration at this point?
And especially because it was 4th and 9, 4th and 2. Okay, 4th and 2, sure, something can happen.
4th and 5,
you can make something. 4th and 9, that's a lot. That's a kicker to.
And you've got one of the best kickers in the league.
I mean, we can pick apart that play right all day. I mean, he's 7 yards per line of scrimmage already as it is as a kicker because you're step back. So you're already. You're 18 yards. He's got to run your kicker has to run 18 yards on an end around essentially against an LSU defense. When you have a chance to tie the game on the road after that kind of drive,
because I think it was only like a 30-yard kick.
Yeah, I mean, he would have made the kick.
It would have
the
been,
way he's been playing this year was almost automatic.
So that to me just kind of set the tone because then after that, again, we never went back to the run. We came out that next drive, 3 passes, almost similar to the Tennessee. Or was it Tennessee? I think. Or is it similar to the Tennessee game? We just came out through 3 passes again. We did not stay on the gas and go back to what was working for us. I don't care if they're showing you a heavy box of maybe 8 or 7 guys. You still have to keep them honest. You got to show them that you're committed to it. You can't just come out and be scared of the look they're giving you. Because Fromm, I mean, as much of a Fromm guy as I am, and I'm not saying he's losing the job, I still think it's Fromm's team. Horrible day, not efficient. He missed in that first drive. He did miss that big ball only by a yard or 2 to Mecole, which is another thing. It's just we did not do ourselves any favors. We didn't turn the ball over, not till later, but we did not. we could, again, like Tennessee, in the first half, execution, if we could have converted on some of these things and got some points on the board, it's a totally different ball game. We hit that. I mean, obviously, we
That's
can play
exactly what you said in the Tennessee podcast, to where some of these mistakes are going to bite us later on against better teams, and obviously it did.
I mean, luckily it wasn't penalties. It's just frustrating that it's from overthrowing the deep ball. We did not see that last year. We see that now. And that's just the frustrating part to me is we have a returning quarterback who has now, 18 games, 19 games under his belt, 4 or 5 returning starters on the offensive line. A little bit dinged up, but the guys we have replacing him are 5 stars, and they're not really the problem. He had some time to throw. The deepest wide receiving core we've had, I think, in quite a while. A drop-off, but not much of, in the at running back in the same offensive system.
I don't
it doesn't
know.
add up to me. I don't understand.
I don't know what the answer is to that, and maybe you had a better look watching the game again and for a second time. I mean, but I just remember sitting there and thinking, like, this kid looks like he's never played a game before.
Yeah, it's indecisive. I mean, there were times he had time to throw the ball, no doubt, and there were also times where our wide receivers they didn't get separation quick enough. Now, that part I can't speak to, of the X's and O's of how quick and how deep their route should run and when it should come open for Fromm. But there were some times where guys were getting open, and then the offensive line, mainly Isaiah Wilson, there were several plays where someone broke open late, and Isaiah Wilson several times from the right did not allow Fromm that time to see that develop. So, I mean, that's to LSU's credit, right? I mean, they covered it up, they smothered our secondary, and were able to get pressure enough on us. I don't know. I mean, I cannot explain Fromm's indecision and lack of almost confidence of slinging the ball to the place he needs to go. But yeah, I mean, as much as we can harp on that on the offense, again, the defense. That blown coverage, there was that one play, it was their third score when they went down and they threw the ball to the right.
50-yard touchdown. No, it wasn't a touchdown, but a 50-yard gain, and it was the first play of the drive. It was first and 10.
Simple. They motioned over wide receiver from the left to the right, and then it was J.R. Reed and Tyson Campbell trying to decide who's to pick up and who's to blitz. Someone was going to blitz. You can tell there was a call over there. Someone was going to blitz. Well, they both decided, you have him. I'm going to blitz. But they both thought that. So both of them blitzed, left them wide open. Easy stuff to fix, right? So we can prevent that stuff. It's just
at this point in the season, you hoped that wasn't the stuff that we were going to be suffering from.
It wasn't even – I mean, it was pre-snap motion, but it wasn't like what you're going to see at Auburn. Not that I'm saying that's going to equate to Auburn smashing us, but, it wasn't a lot of window dressing. It was just moving a wide receiver over to the right. He stopped, got lined up, and then there was just horrible communication from a senior and a freshman. You can probably point the finger at whose problem that was, but
I think it would be kind of a day one thing that if you're not sure, you bail on the blitz and you play coverage. I mean, I would think that's what you coach people to do, because the worst thing you can do is have too many people blitzing and leaving people open out of the secondary.
It's just we missed our big plays. They hit theirs early, and they can control the clock. And then the tempo, they're in it with tempo and aggressive, and we couldn't overcome it. So
I think the biggest turnaround in the game was, think about if Georgia doesn't go for a fake field goal, and then fast forward to early in the fourth quarter when Jake Fromm is sacked on third down and puts Georgia out of field goal range.
That was when we knew the game was over.
Right, so that's a 6-point swing right there. At that point, it was 16-29, 6-point swing. It's a touchdown game.
Yep.
So at that point, if it was 19-29, then maybe you think, okay, we're going to be conservative. Maybe we'll run a screenplay. Maybe we'll run a draw play with DeAndre Swift. You still keep yourself in field goal range, and you have a chance to make it a touchdown game with another field goal. But that sack
that was hard to watch, because that's something you see freshmen or rookies or whatever you want to call them doing, and that's not something that we're expecting out of Jake Fromm at this point. But his indecisiveness is kind of, we've seen it game in and game out, with the exception of the Vanderbilt game.
Yeah.
There's every game where he has had drives where it's just like, what is he seeing out there? Like, what is he having such a hard time, letting the ball go?
Yeah, Kirby got a lot of flack for not keeping Justin Fields in longer for more plays. I mean, again, Tyler, you said it perfectly. I mean, that's why he gets paid the big dollars to make these kinds of decisions. But, I mean, do you think people are right in questioning, should Justin Fields have gotten a better shape considering where we were in this game and the fact that Fromm looked so uncomfortable, behind his line? I mean, what do you think?
I think in this game, yes. I'm not saying for the season. I'm not saying for Florida. I think in this game, yes, you had nothing to lose.
You had nothing to lose.
We were not moving the ball consistently, and the only touchdown that first touchdown we scored in this game, guess it was in the ball game, Justin Fields. I mean,
we run the ball better when he's in there.
We run the ball better. Pass the ball with Justin Fields. Make someone. I mean, if it's true in practice that you're getting him ready just in case Fromm were to go down or he can run the whole offense.
But at least make them respect the option that he can throw the ball. Air one out, for God's sake.
Like, step back and fire that thing.
Or, I mean, even if you don't feel comfortable with him throwing the ball, Fromm was completing 40% of his passes. I mean, it was exactly what we said. Where it would make sense to play Fields more would be in a game where we're running the ball consistently and Fromm can't find his rhythm. So then it's like, we run the ball better when Fields is in there. So if they know we can't pass, let's at least put our best running players on the field, and that includes Fields.
I guess I hate it because it goes back to almost what I said in the first game versus Austin P. I don't want him to be a battering ram, and that's almost what we use him. Granted, in this game, it was almost just get anything
let him
going.
Go in for a whole series, even if he's handing it off, more. But it's not that he's running the ball well. It's that the team as a whole runs the ball better when he's the one handing it off.
And it's not like, to Jim's point, it's not like you're taking away a part of your game that's working. I mean, we weren't making passes down the field.
Point.
So what difference does it make?
Fair. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a good point too. I think now would be the time to I'm not telling Kirby what to do, but I think they should definitely take a serious look.
Kirby,
I know he's
a
listening.
listener.
I know, and I got my hand on the pulse of
Kirby. We still love you
of the locker room, but I think now during this bye week is a serious time to look at. Okay, we're going to get. When Kirby says there is no plan for quarterback, you have a plan for long snapper, okay? You better have a plan for the quarterback. And I know that may just be coach speak for the media. I understand that. But it does appear that it's very situational. Up until this point, that's been fine. I think now it's time to take a serious look at, okay, let's give the kid a drive. We're not going to tell anybody else. We're going to tell them that we're going to stick with a no-plan narrative. But, Justin, you're going to get every 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 18th series. I don't care what it is. But you're going to get a numbered series. And here's the situation. You're going to have 3 plays scripted for each down and distance. You're going to have 1st and 10, or you have a 1st and 10 play, then you're going to have a second and long, second and medium, second and short, third, and then that's how he's going to get into the playbook. That's going to come with, okay, down and distance is what I'm looking at using my reads, and you're going to have that. You're going to script that through. I don't care who you script it with. Go through the whole week and ingrain that in his brain and get him into that flow. I mean, Clemson seemed to do that with Trevor Lawrence. You got to assist. I mean, and I'm not one to do a 2-quarterback thing, but when we have days like this, you got to have a guy to come in and at least give a team a threat in both his arm and his feet. And the kid can do it. He's talented, but you got to prepare him for that. And if he's not ready, and I think Jimmy said this a couple of weeks ago too, from what we're seeing from from Fields, excuse me, I think we're seeing him throw as much as the coaches are comfortable with him throwing, unfortunately. And I mean, that's not very much. And I think that's a product of practice.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is. I mean, we've said it twice already, but it's just weird that in the 3rd quarter, when Fromm was playing so poorly, that they wouldn't give Fields a series. I mean, one series. He was in there. He's never in there for 2 plays in a row, and he never attempted a pass.
I mean, even if it's just giving them a different look, even if it's giving somebody the team a spark, like, hey, we're not giving up. We're trying everything that we possibly can.
Sure.
It's frustrating as a fan to sit here and think back of what could have been had he been given the opportunity.
Sure. I mean, I guess I still don't see Fields coming in and putting it on his shoulders and truly willing the game to. I don't see him in that light yet, right? But John makes a good point. I mean, that coming down the field and taking that sack late. I mean, get dynamic. If you're gonna, why not put Fields in there and just say, you're our best running option. We just need any amount of yards. Just don't take a loss. Run. We're gonna settle for a field goal here. If you get a big run, bust it and go, son. Or give them one read RPO if it's open. If not, then just run at all costs and run it because you're going to run them more effective than Fromm. And if they're going to give you an easy look, just toss it over. I'm not a coach, but like seeing that kind of stuff, John makes a good point. That potential 6-point swing is just
because you almost wonder in that play where Fromm took that sack if a freshman would be less likely to take that sack because you're in a freshman's ear saying whatever you do not get sacked. Yeah, all we care about is points right now. Whereas like maybe they open up the playbook a little more with Fromm, all of a sudden he gets his happy feet, he's running around and we're out of field goal
trying
range.
To make
it's like not something you even think you need to warn a veteran player against.
Another thing is also I think in that 2-point conversion. I don't like that. I mean, I get making it an 8-point game, so if we go down there and score again, we can tie the game up with another 2-point conversion. But if you run that reverse fake sweep,
that was bizarre.
Why not put Fields in there?
Got so weirdly cute.
I don't understand.
We did. Yeah. Fields just got us down there back to back, successful big runs to score. And you're going to have some exotic play. Why not have another exotic option or threat to run the ball like Fields?
Yeah.
I don't agree with the call. I think we should have kicked it because again, that was another instance of we stopped them. They didn't get what they want. We were ready for another sneaky cute play like the fake field goal. And just they were ready for everything. Fake field goal, 2-point conversion. They seem to be
Which, I
coached
mean,
up for it
kudos
all.
to them. I mean, you got to tip your hat, but at the same time, you look at what this team is built on, and it just seems like blue-collar, old-fashioned, we don't need gimmicks to come in here and beat you. I mean, so that's why it seemed like such a departure from Kirby's standard plays, and
Yeah.
I think that's what's really frustrating is it's like seemingly had we played our game, what could have been.
And I
think us going for that 2-point conversion at all, like it was a weird, goofy play, but even if we had just lined up and run it off tackle like we like to, that just speaks to me to Kirby not trusting our defense. Because I mean, if we had just taken the points and it would have been a 9-point game with an entire quarter left,
yeah.
if we trusted our defense at all to get any sort of stops and then on the run game. But like at that point, they knew what they were going to do. We knew what they were going to do, and we knew we couldn't stop them.
Sure.
They were just going to run it down our throat and eat clock the way we like to. So
Yeah.
it was we haven't seen the roles reversed like that. But to go for 2 in that tight of a game with that much time left, to me, speaks more to us not trusting the defense than us really trusting the offense.
I think another point, and that's a good point, Jimmy. I think hearing all this, I didn't even observe this watching really. What I observed watching is LSU was able to score after converting big plays that were uncharacteristic of our defense. We seem to shoot ourselves in the foot after we built momentum. Great second drive with great runs. We get cute in the red zone, and then we do a fake field goal. We come out. I think it was we run down the field. We score, or we get the touchdown with Fields. We come out. We do a cute 2-point conversion. We kind of take that momentum away from us, and then we stopped them on third down when it was 19-10, I believe. I think it was 19-10. We stopped them on third down. They punt. Miko gets a 27-yard punt return. We drive downfield, and then just like the other two things I just said, we get the Fromm sack that prevents them. Knocks out a field goal range.
It was 19-9 at that point.
That was a lot of words. Yeah, 19-9.
Yeah,
okay,
Miko returned it
27
well inside
yards.
their own territory, inside their 40.
Yeah.
But we go 3 and out with Jake Fromm taking the sack that kept us
so
out.
it just felt like the great running drive, and then with the fake field goal, the touchdown with a failed 2-point conversion, and then a big time punt return, drive downfield, and then a big sack by Fromm on third down. All just seemed to. We got cute. We didn't execute. It just sucked the momentum out of everything we had going for us when it was going right. When we had every time we had a chance to get back into it and get a tie of the game, make it close, put the pressure on them, we got cute or just flat failed. And that hurts. I mean, but then again, that's a good team versus a great team. Maybe we won't call them great, but that's just team showed up to play, better team won. So we did not keep our foot in the gas and show up in those moments, and they did. So
Yeah. Well, just to kind of wrap up the conversation on LSU, I think we've said pretty much how we've felt a few different ways here, but I think that going into a bye week, giving ourselves a chance to, rethink, where we stand and realize that we're not immortal in this conversation, I think will be good for the team. But that being said, certainly disappointing showing by the Dogs, and frankly, an embarrassing loss to a team that we expected and most people expected us to go into play. But we're going to stray away a little bit from the Dogs since we are going into a bye week, and we're going to kind of talk the rest of the college football landscape here in a second. But I want to give a shout out to our friend Ed Freeman, State Farm.
Bulldog Ed, he was down there with us.
sure was.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Ed Freeman, State Farm. We all rely on Ed Freeman for our coverage needs because if you're like us and you're accident prone, then you're also like us and you seek out the best coverage. So whether it's your home, a boat, a life, or a car, be sure to check out Ed Freeman State Farm for all your insurance coverage needs. And I'm sorry, my dog is absolutely wrecking the set here.
For our YouTube listeners.
I don't even know if people can see her in the.
Yeah, we don't know if she's in the shot.
In the
But for people that
shots,
watch
but
on YouTube, if you've
you can
ever
probably
seen
hear her.
a German short-haired pointer puppy, that's our house dog Kix, and Maisie and their sisters. Right?
Older sisters, yes.
Yeah.
Not litter mates, but from the same mother. So sisters.
Fun fact. Fun little Easter egg for our YouTube viewers.
There you go. But so this is kind of where we turn the ball over to John here because, frankly, nobody else really stays on top of the rest of college football outside of the SEC. John, for those of us that don't know, John and I grew up big Notre Dame fans. Our dad went to Notre Dame. We're originally from Indiana, so that was our team growing up. And, then we followed along with Cubs baseball, Bears football, things like that. But John is certainly more in tune with the conversation outside of the SEC. So, John, looking ahead, Notre Dame obviously, I think, placed at number 4 currently. How have the Irish been performing this season, and what do you expect to see them through the rest of the second half going forward?
I think it's been a very promising season for Notre Dame and for Irish fans overall. Ever since that quarterback switch from Brandon Wimbush to Ian Book, saw it firsthand at Wake Forest, and it's been a totally different vibe. It's been a totally different atmosphere with the team and just kind of how they've performed. There's no major skill set difference. It's just that one does something better than the other. Ian Book's a better decision maker. Brandon Wimbush has a better arm. And just like in the LSU,
they are both like mobile quarterbacks.
They're both mobile quarterbacks.
Changed the offense
not at all. But just like we saw in the LSU Georgia game, Joe Burrow seemed to be a better decision maker. So Joe Burrow's throwing for 15 of 30 passing. That got the job done. Ian Book isn't throwing for 400 yards a game, but so far in 4 starts, he's completed 75% of his passes. That's kind of been the key to success for Notre Dame because it's been able to open up their offense overall. So from there, they've gone on to really take down Wake Forest by a 30-point margin. They had really great wins against Stanford, and then at Virginia Tech, the Pitt game was a hiccup. And for 3.5, almost 4 quarters of that game, I thought that was going to be just another classic Notre Dame loss where they couldn't overcome a close game. But thankfully, Pat Narduzzi for Pittsburgh kind of blew that one. He ran a fake punt on his own 40-yard line.
What game was this?
Notre Dame Pittsburgh.
Did it work?
When will we learn?
He ran a fake punt on his own 45-yard line, and he put a different jersey on his third-string quarterback. So there wasn't really anything. They were like, well, that's not their punter. He's huge. So, and in the end, Notre Dame pulled that game out. So it was one of those times where it was like, all right, well, they escaped. But looking at the whole landscape of college football, 4 or 5 top 10 teams did not escape this week. So when you think, okay, well, you beat Pittsburgh by 5, is it really that great of a win? No. But then the takeaway is Georgia lost at LSU. It's not a bad loss. West Virginia lost. Number 6, West Virginia lost
to Iowa State.
Iowa State
is the championship killer. At
least once a year, you're good for an Iowa State update, especially in Ames, because it's always really cool to see the Cyclones.
Cool. If you were Team Chaos in college football, Iowa State's your favorite team.
You know you're only going to win 4 or 5 games as a Cyclone fan, but you know that 1 or 2 of those is going to be like a top 5 team. So it makes it worth it. Washington lost to Oregon. Okay. That's a team who was coming off a loss to Auburn at the beginning of the season. You thought, all right, well, they may not be a pretender. People thought a little bit differently of Auburn at first after that loss for Washington. And then Penn State lost to Michigan State. So
I thought that was crazy.
And that's just another case of Penn State not being able to finish a football game. They did the same thing against Ohio State. They couldn't hold it together. Yeah. And then they let Mark D'Antonio come in and beat the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley. And then it was chaos otherwise. Texas only won by 5. Yeah. UCF only beat Memphis by 1 point. So a lot of things could have fallen differently across the whole field, but it didn't. So right now, it's just kind of a hodgepodge after numbers 5 and 6 in the rankings.
Mm-hmm. After number 1.
Pretty much after number 1. It's Alabama and the field.
We saw a thing we were joking about where it had a list of everything you just named, all the teams that lost, all the teams that almost lost, and then the last thing was Alabama punted twice. Just a crazy week of college football. Here's a fun fact. After 7 weeks, Alabama's punter still has his red shirt. Because he hasn't played in 4 games yet.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, their starting punter has not played in 4 games.
That is unbelievable.
That is ridiculous. And we were saying today, and in other college football news, in the year where Alabama might have the best college football team of all time, the one team that we all realistically thought had a shot of beating them, Ohio State, who in a game where you beat them by limiting their quarterback, their best edge rusher just up and quits the team.
He didn't up and quit. He got injured.
He retired and he's preparing himself for the NFL, which we could talk about on a different podcast. I totally side with him. There's no shame in that. But Tyler disagrees. But
we might get into that here.
Yeah, we might get into that tonight. But it's just like, could anything else go right for Alabama this year? This is ridiculous.
Especially,
totally.
I mean, you look at their schedule. So so shout out to the boys from the Getting Tossed podcast. We at the beginning of the year actually talked about Georgia in the East maybe having a fairly easy schedule compared to other teams, but that was before people thought Kentucky was going to be just a one-loss team and Florida was going to be a one-loss team. And now you look at Georgia's schedule and they've actually got a fairly difficult road. You look at who Alabama plays.
Yeah.
They've got the Iron Bowl, and then that's pretty much it for
Very good
Alabama.
point.
After
they got LSU still.
do they? Yeah, they do still have LSU, but I mean,
And they had Louisville, right? So, I mean,
Yeah, Louisville ended up being trash.
Bobby
They draw
Petrino.
they don't
Louisiana
draw
Lafayette.
Tennessee. They've always played Tennessee out of the East, and then who was their other
They had
East
Missouri.
game?
Mississippi State.
Missouri.
And they
Well,
play
Mississippi-
in the
yeah.
West, but so yeah, that's it's Alabama in the field as usual. I don't know if you guys saw it when Tua. I'm gonna butcher his last name pronunciation.
Don't even try. We know
Yeah,
who you're
his
talking
name's
about.
Tua.
Tua.
So when Tua went down with a knee injury against Missouri, and he stayed in the medical tent for like a good 15 minutes.
Oh, I didn't even hear about
Okay,
that.
so he went down, and like it didn't look great. He was limping, and he stayed on the field for a bit, and just listening to the broadcast and watching, you could hear a pin drop, and it's not like Alabama would be talented enough to still go on and win the college football national championship. But he sat in that tent for 15 minutes, and it was like, well, folks, is Jalen Hurts going to have to come in and start? Like as if it would be like a travesty,
The guy who's
that
already
the
started
guy who's
29 games for
Let
the
us
like,
two
oh, well,
championships.
that'd be a shame. You just hate to see that. You just hate to see another 5-star quarterback have to come in. So the way the rankings sit right now, it's Alabama, of course. Ohio State's at 2, Clemson 3, Notre Dame 4, and then like we said after that, it's just a mess.
It's a bunch of one-loss teams.
And
So what is
and
it gonna-
Texas at number 7 having
Yeah.
lost to Maryland.
if Texas
That
hadn't
is-
forgotten,
that is the most frustrating thing about college football, how big the recency bias is. Like,
Well,
are
and
you
we
kidding
also
me?
started-
Georgia is ranked behind Texas, so you're telling me that a loss to LSU at home is worse than
a loss
Texas
to-
loss
yeah.
to Maryland?
But we've talked about that before,
We
right?
talked about
It's
this on the
how-
show and forgive me, John, but we said two teams that are always overrated at the beginning of the season
Texas
are
and Notre
Texas
Dame.
and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And here we sit.
Yep.
So
Notre Dame's
Well, it's not
undefeated. They've
over
earned
yet.
their ranking.
But yes,
you look so. I mean, we're not going to get into a lot of crazy numbers like ESPN's bullshit, like FPI projections. But you look at like the strength of record. Texas beat a couple teams at the beginning of the season who people thought that they were more contenders. They beat USC when USC was still a top 15 team. They beat TCU when TCU was still a top 10 team, and now Gary Patterson and TCU's 3-3. So that's where those kind of wins come from. I mean, their win over Oklahoma. That was impressive.
Yeah,
without
but
a doubt.
to me, I don't put much stock in rivalry wins. In
I don't put
college
much
football
stock in Big
because-
12 wins.
Well, yeah, that's fair too. But no, I mean games like Georgia, Florida, games like Ohio State, Michigan, games like Texas, Oklahoma. You love to watch them, and it's always impressive when a team wins. But I feel like it's hard to take too much away. It's hard to, see Texas win that game and then say, well, Texas is objectively a better team than Oklahoma.
And I don't
Texas
I
would
don't
fare
disagree.
better than Oklahoma given the exact same schedule, not going head to head.
I
I
think
don't think you can make those from rivalry
you can.
games.
In the end, though, I think Georgia picked the best week to just fall flat on their face because of all the other
Kirby
top 10
playing
teams that
chess
lost.
over here.
Yeah, that was all by design.
We got our quality loss out of the way.
He did.
Yeah,
He got the quality loss on the road out of the way, going into a bye week too. So what if something happens during the bye week? Clemson could lose to NC State this weekend.
That'd be nice.
They would
I'd
absolutely
appreciate that.
drop.
Kirby, you genius.
Kirby, you dirty dog. So the landscape is wild. There's still 8 unbeatens left, but you look at all of the one-loss teams in the top 15. It's just nuts. And a team like Michigan could easily sneak back in because they've still got to play Ohio State. And if they go undefeated up until that OSU game and they beat the Buckeyes to end their season and then go in and win the Big Ten championship, then you have to make a case for them to possibly be a contender. But at this point, if none of the top 4 lose in the current rankings, it's going to be difficult for any one-loss team, for that matter, to probably slide in.
Yeah, that's a good point. We said at the beginning of the season, Notre Dame is the team that can throw a wrench in everything because we think of the Power Five and we're saying who's going to get left out, but Notre Dame always has that opportunity.
If Notre Dame loses a game before the end of the season, there's going to be a very fair argument to say, okay, well, Notre Dame will probably make a New Year's Six bowl, but they may not. They may get left out of the playoff. And I would make a case for them to
You
still
think
get.
that's just because of the conference championship?
I think it's because of the
aspect?
They play one less game. I think that's fair.
And I mean, at this point, you look at who their one loss would be against. The rest of the schedule is Navy, Syracuse,
Yeah, no
Northwestern.
USC, Northwestern. So
nobody.
if they lose at USC, as long as USC's a 9-win team, maybe you still make the case. But it's the last game of the season,
Right.
so then you have to bank on 2 or 3 top 5 teams or top 10 teams losing their conference championships.
Yeah.
So you revisit that in 4 weeks, but at this point, I mean, this is going to be one of the more exciting second halves of the season for college football, without a doubt.
Yeah, I always say it's crazy crazy week of college football because of just chaos ensues, and I guess this week is a little bit of that. I'm just so, I guess, lost in our own loss. I'm just thinking like, oh, well, it's not fun anymore. Granted, we have a chance. All of Georgia's preseason goals are still in front of them, but it is tough. I mean, you look at Alabama and the rest of the field. I mean, Notre Dame, like you said, no more ranked teams. Granted, you don't win them on paper, but I mean, they look good. I mean, they've had how about this? Notre Dame, maybe they have one big, they have one small, right? Or one ugly, I guess. So they've won multiple different ways. That goes a long way, right? I mean, it's winning different ways is huge for a team. So I think being tested a little bit like you didn't think you would, and stomping some people that you want.
Yeah, you never want to scrape by for the majority of your season, but you're going to have games where you're going to just come by out by a nose. You're going to beat a Pitt by 5 points.
Sure.
I mean, look, Clemson lost to Pittsburgh last year.
Yep.
So
was it Syracuse? They lost to Syracuse.
Yeah, they lost to Syracuse.
Yeah.
So, but they, look at where they ended up. They still ended up, vying for a college football playoff spot.
Sure.
So, but look at the SEC East and just how crazy that division could pan out, because Georgia still has to play Kentucky. They still got to play Florida. Yep. Either Kentucky or Florida could end up winning. I mean, Georgia takes another loss against either of those teams, and you could look at a scenario where Georgia may not contend for the East. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's just crazy to think about that type of scenario.
No, it feels that much more. We're definitely down to earth, right?
Florida officially controls their own destiny.
Yeah, I mean, they beat us. I guess are they?
Who do they beat us? They would have a
a
2-game lead or 1-game lead plus the tiebreaker, so essentially a 2-game lead.
I mean, how much more are you looking forward to a trip to Jacksonville now that Florida looks pretty competitive?
Yeah, that game is a lot more exciting than we thought it was going to be going into this year.
And I wish I wasn't saying that. I mean, now it's kind of funny because now my anger, that's funny to y'all's point about rivalry games, now my anger just focuses to Florida. Luckily, Florida is ranked, I guess, and now luckily Florida's loss to Kentucky does not look as severe, so that certainly helps, Yeah. Again, you can't put much of a stock because it's a rivalry game. It's more heated for us and for them. But
is there any way that UCF undefeated finds a way into the playoff?
No.
They need a lot of people.
Here's their strength.
Could they be back-to-back national champions?
UCF's strength of schedule is 122nd. That's out of 130 Division I college football teams. So then I don't dislike Central Florida. I think their story's great. I think what they did last year is great, but they're going to have to, for their out of conference games moving forward next year, they're going to have to at least schedule someone from the Big Ten or even the Big 12.
So do you think they would get in over a 2-loss conference champion non-SEC team?
I mean, I would say yes. I think if you're going to start thinking about putting in a 2-loss team to the playoff, then I think you give Central Florida some more consideration. If you're really looking at a scenario where there is a 2-loss conference champion, I would give Central Florida an edge there. And we saw what they did last year against an Auburn team that was obviously much better than they are this year. I would say the same thing. If Notre Dame was a 2-loss team, I'd put anyone in over Notre Dame. I just don't. I don't think that's good for the game.
If you're UCF, you're basically these top teams are not going to lose 2 games. So what you got to root for is basically an upset in the conference championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what you're hoping. You're hoping Clemson goes and loses to a 3-loss Miami or Virginia Tech, or you're hoping Ohio State loses to a 2-loss Wisconsin or something. But they need that chaos conference championship week. They're not going to earn their way in.
They do, and it's not. I mean, it's never out of the question in college football. Clemson's got to play NC State this weekend. They still got to play Boston College. Boston College has looked fairly good this year. Anthony Brown, their quarterback,
that was kind of your dark horse pick.
That was my dark horse pick on our podcast.
For what?
For sleepers in the college football, like not playoff necessarily, but to contend for a conference championship. And if Boston College were to win and then beat Clemson, they would actually take the lead in that division. So, and same thing with NC State. So Central Florida is going to have to hope that Central Florida is going to have to hope that Oklahoma loses another Big 12 game, that Georgia loses to a Florida, Michigan loses to Penn State or Ohio State. I mean, there are going to have to be so many of those situations for the Knights, and I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fair, but I almost think the money almost comes into play at that point. I kind of like how the BCS got a bad rap for the big money market kind of wants to see the big game. We don't want to see UCF in there. I mean, granted, I agree. I mean, right or wrong, a team that's deserving should definitely be in there. And it does stink how, and for me, it sucks and it's fun of when you lose in college football. I like the drama of that. It matters all the way up to the end. It makes every game matter. That makes it fun. In the NFL, you can drop 1 or 2 or 3 or 6 even and win the whole thing. It is fun that, aggravating if you're on the wrong end of that. Obviously, we kind of benefited from that last year, having some late drama, losing to Auburn, winning out, taking it on, and getting it back. So, I like that. I like that element of it, but it is frustrating, especially for a team like UCF who can possibly go undefeated again, win 28 games in a row, essentially, and still granted, it's not year over year, it's this year. It's every year, stands alone. But
yeah, it's just one of those things. It becomes the power index of the conference. I mean, there's another team, Cincinnati. They're undefeated. They're ranked 20th. They got to play South Florida, who's a one-loss team. They also got to play Central Florida, who we've just been talking about, who's undefeated. So even if a team like Cincinnati were to go and finish the season undefeated and beat 2 top 15 teams and a top 10 team and a top 15 team, they're not going to make it into the college football playoff, even if they sneak into the top 10 or the top 8. I mean, their schedule and their strength overall in the American Athletic Conference, it just isn't enough.
I mean, the rule of thumb that's kind of been for non-Power 5 teams since Boise State busted on the scene in the early 2000s is you kind of have to go undefeated 2 years in a row and have a true marquee out-of-conference win.
You have to have a marquee out-of-conference win, and you kind of have to have the benefit of starting the season in the top 20 of the rankings. Because if you're
like
on
Cincinnati
the outside
right now, even if they run the table, there's no way they go from 20 to 4 between now and the end of the season.
I mean, it'd be a great story if they made a New Year's Six bowl and pulled off a great win.
Last time they went undefeated, they played Florida in the Sugar Bowl and lost by like 1,000.
And they died.
Who was that quarterback? Who was that guy that had for Cincinnati?
Tim Tebow.
No, Cincinnati.
I have no idea.
That was his brother, Jim Tebow.
He was a big white guy, I remember.
The thing that when a non-Power 5 team does make it into the playoff one day, you almost hope that, you do hope that they at least give whoever they play a game. Because the worst thing that could happen for the group of 5 would be they finally get themselves into the playoff and they lose, 63-7.
And then it just
defeats, it's just like, all right, we're done forever.
It defeats the conversation of any other non-Power 5 team. I mean, you saw that with Central Florida and Auburn last postseason for college football. I mean, that was one of the best bowl games to watch, of the new year. It was fantastic. So
the Rose Bowl
that's a
was the
good
best
point,
game
Jimmy.
to watch.
Yeah, that's true. Rose Bowl was the best game to watch.
So there's your landscape across the country, and we got
good,
those,
John.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was well done.
We've got those college football playoff rankings coming out.
October or after Halloween, right?
Yeah,
after
next Halloween.
Monday after Georgia,
after Florida. Yeah, 29th. 29th.
Last thing I'm going to say is, I don't know about everybody else. I really wish when Mark May and Lou Holtz would bitch at each other over like college football final talks. I mean, I like Jesse Palmer. I like all those other guys on there now, but. I mean,
No, they did that little judge segment. Remember that they would do like judge and juror or whatever. That was
I enjoyed that.
Entertainment 101 right there. That's why it's still on TV. Take notes.
That's right, Maisie. Central Florida won't get in if they go undefeated.
Well, John, we're glad to have you on the podcast. Be sure to check out the Getting Tossed podcast. John hosts it. Try and do it once a week. I think you and 3 or 4 other guys.
Like 8 other guys.
John's
5 of us
got
total.
A lot of contributors on this podcast.
A lot of reoccurring guests.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun. It's more of a general sports take. They cover a lot of the current events that are going on, and not just about Notre Dame football or in our case Georgia football with some back end sports. So they cover a lot of different stuff. Be sure to check them out. I think that you can find them on
find us on Twitter, find us on iTunes as well. So we don't have the in we go advantage, but we've been constantly seeking out Michelob Ultra for their support and sponsorship.
Dad sodas, right?
The ultimate
dad soda. We still have yet to hear from them. They did message us back with a cease and desist letter. That's good.
So you're
progress.
getting noticed.
They're playing hard to get.
A lot of notice.
Any attention is good attention.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're going to move on to kind of the last part of our show. We like to do some Mount Rushmore discussions. It's something that we only really bring up if we think that we have a really good one that we want to address. And it wasn't even on our docket for tonight, but I was like, actually, this one just hit me. And the Mount Rushmore discussion for tonight is the most hateable athletes of all time. And this could be for any number of reasons. Okay, this could be because they were caught cheating. It'd be because they had a terrible personality. They were a terrible teammate. It's just because you have a personal vendetta against them for absolutely no reason. I don't care what that reason is if they're on the Mount Rushmore, but that is the topic. And Tyler, I'm going to start over here with you. Again, this isn't something that we had on the docket, but it's something that I want to bring to light who you hate the most in the sports world.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go someone with football because that's my love. The first person that came to mind for me was Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
That was, I guess, I hate. I mean, because obviously Hank Aaron being a Braves guy, that he's the number one in my heart. He's the number one in our, without cheating, without PEDs, without any of that, with steroids. So that was what came to mind. That seems kind of weak because I feel like I should have someone that I hate more from like Florida or Alabama or something, but no one really comes to mind initially. So when everyone talks about Barry Bonds and how just, I guess for me, how unapologetic and just owning it, and I don't care, and prove me wrong, and I know that there's a lot of this and that, as far as defending him and going against him, and him saying I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't do anything that wasn't unapproved. I guess I played within the gray area or whatever that is. But to me, I guess I've always hated how people became big time Giants fans, love Barry Bonds. The Barry Bonds is their guy. Not even casual baseball fans, just kind of like loving LeBron, just not even having any idea of following him, just having a big recognizable name, and then just knowing that he cheated and did it, that bothers me. So Barry Bonds was the first one that came to mind, so I'm going to go with for Barry for stealing Hank's thunder and for doing it all the wrong way.
That's a good one. I mean, I don't fault you for taking that pick because I think that's on a lot of people's. I mean, I think that the cheating thing is the biggest factor. I mean, there's no way you can look at a before and after picture of that guy and be like, he probably wasn't on steroids. He was like as thin as that light pole before he started taking steroids. And it's like there's no way. So I'm totally on board with that pick.
Mm-hmm. Also, when Hulk Hogan left WCW and the NWO Wolfpack, that was
trash.
I was gonna say
consolation number one.
Talking about the wrestling, I was gonna say Seth Rollins is a very hateable athlete. I guess you would call him more entertainers than anything, but Seth Rollins is just a punk. If you've ever watched Monday Night Raw, he's kind of like just this greasy slime ball of a guy, and like he has a big following, but he just kind of sucks, and you just can't support him.
He's like a poor man's Roman Reigns.
Exactly,
that's what he is.
Also, referee Scott Armstrong. He's been in Triple H's pocket for years.
That is a great one, and I love that.
Just add on to the wrestling.
All right, Jim, I'm gonna cross over here to you. I want to hear your take, and if you've got one or two to throw on the mount. Let's hear them.
Well, mine is pretty much always going to be football related, and obviously, being a Georgia fan, I think I'm going to look at our rivals and stuff. So the first one that popped into my head was Cam Newton, but as time has gone on, I've kind of learned to forgive Cam Newton for 2010 and just his showboatery, because I'm a firm believer that you can be as much of a jerk as you want within reason if you back it up on the field, and Cam Newton has done that pretty consistently. It's one of the reasons I really like Baker Mayfield, which people always give me a hard time for, but I feel like he's kind of a punk, but he doesn't seem like a bad guy off the field, and he always goes out there and backs it up. So, but staying in the Auburn train, I think my most hated athlete of all time is definitely Nick Fairley. I think he is just a bad person. Yeah. I think
just evil.
I think
I'm a pretty good judge of character.
Yeah, like you can play football. I mean, you have to have a little bit of a nasty streak to play. You have to go out there and want to impose your will on the other guy. But I think he just enjoys hurting people.
Yep.
And when you go back and you watch Nick Fairley dirty plays in the 2010 game against Georgia, we had redshirt freshman Aaron Murray out there that almost died on the field. It seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, it was infuriating to watch.
Who's the
and that was
defensive-
when I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
That was just when my real dislike for Auburn began, which, people that are close to me can tell you that that's cooled a little bit in the last few years. But when it comes to 2010, Nick Fairley, for me, never forgive, never forget. Nick Fairley, I hate you.
Were you going to ask about Ndamukong Suh?
No, it was.
I thought you were going to go with that.
The I think he might be a linebacker for the Bengals.
Oh, Vontez Burfict?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy's dirty
that
too.
guy
I almost said
is the
Brandon. I almost said
first.
Brandon Spikes.
Yeah,
he was the linebacker for Florida.
He poked Noshawn Marino in the eyes.
Yeah. Was that Noshawn? I believe it was.
Noshawn,
Yeah. All right, it was a Georgia running back, whoever it was, but
It was Noshawn,
More like no
Football. Aaron Hernandez is up there with probably one of the most hateable.
Yeah, we forgot about Aaron Hernandez.
He actually murdered 3 or 4 people and then got out of it scot-free by killing himself. So
he's
a pretty crappy person.
He couldn't hang around in the league long enough.
I wasn't going to mention
Fun
that guy.
fact.
Yeah, I don't think.
Piece of human debris there.
Yeah.
Fun fact. The 2008 Florida football team has killed more Americans than Ebola.
That is true.
So
In the country, that is.
That is
like the United
absolutely
States.
true.
But they also had a priest on their team, so.
Yeah, they
Tim
needed
Tebow.
Tim Tebow to
That's
kind of,
true.
but they
Balance it
dug
out.
up. I guess he had a brick, and our friend Reese, who's a Florida fan, told us they have some building that, like, if you were an All-American, you get a brick in the building, and I don't know what it is, but they dug it up and took it out.
Aaron Hernandez?
Yeah, so his brick is no longer in there.
Wait, Aaron Hernandez dug up Tim Tebow's brick?
No, they dug.
No, University of
Florida dug
I was
up.
like, the plot thickens here. This guy is truly diabolical.
guy is trash.
I was like, wait a minute. There is no way that's real, but if it is, oh my gosh.
Sorry, Tim.
He was
I need
definitely,
this.
whatever he did, he was guilty.
In ascending order. Cheated, murdered, removed Tim Tebow's brick.
That was, okay.
All right, who
I don't
else,
even
who
need
else we got
clarification.
for hateable
John?
play? Oh, also, if I'm allowed to have a second one.
Yeah, go for it.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
He's
Snake, the cupcake.
Yeah, he just
And a
that guy
snake.
he just cut and ran and went to the best team, and no shame in chasing rings, but then he wants to get offended every time someone calls him out on it and act like he didn't go to objectively one of the best NBA teams of all time
Yeah.
as a top 5 player in the league. Like, come on, Kevin.
Yep.
It's
Well,
fine,
timeout.
but at least own it.
Well, if we could take a quick segue, then I want to know why is it okay for? We don't want to get into the discussion of why is it okay for the Ohio State guy to do what's best for him, Bosa, in far as his career, but it's not maybe okay for Kevin Durant to do the best.
That is
for his
because
career.
the Ohio State University made like $186 million off their football team last year, and he made none dollars.
But the kid's getting paid to do so. Or he's getting
No,
a free. He's getting a free.
Once you're a
scholarship to do
professional
so.
athlete, I feel like you can have a little more integrity and play for the team because you're getting paid either way. When you're in college, you got to do what's best for you because the NCAA does not care if you have a career-ending injury and you just ruin your
that's
life
not true.
earnings.
Oh, I
They pay for your
100% agree.
surgery.
I 100%
Totally
agree.
They pay for your surgery. They make sure you have a college scholarship. There are plenty of resources. there.
John, what's
I
your
think
take on
there's
this
30 to the
discussion?
Oh man.
Did
Well,
did I just
you
bring
saw
into this
firsthand
completely
what's
out of-
Jalen Smith. Was that his name?
Yeah, when Jalen.
I mean,
Smith,
how much of a
busted
tragedy
his
is that?
knee.
To like, imagine if we hadn't made the playoff last year and we were playing in the Outback Bowl and Roquan Smith destroyed his knee.
Yeah.
Would you? I mean, that you hate to
I
see
would absolutely hate to see it. I mean, again, it goes back to almost everything we talk about. It's the inherent risk of playing. Right? Obviously, you want to do what's best by you, and I totally. I mean, I'm not going to hate the kid. He's not a villain. I think he should do what's best for him. I hate seeing that as a fan because.
I mean, it's a bummer.
I mean,
You
yeah, I
get
do
into-
too. But put
Well,
yourself
that's
in
what I'm
this
saying.
situation.
Totally. You mean
If you're
so
a
let's
player
say-
and you've got a payday coming up and you're about to play in a meaningless bowl, yeah, I understand.
they're undefeated. That's not.
I'm
they have
saying
much more
in
on the
general,
line.
right? I'm saying if you're not playing in a national championship and you're just going to go play in any other bowl for that
I mean,
matter,
obviously I've never
and
been in
you're
a
gonna
situation. I've
and you're
never
going to
had that pressure, but
okay,
I
but
guess-
I'm asking you to put yourself in that situation.
I would
now.
play. I mean, I know where I stand. I would play. I would. I mean, I guess I
That's
love
crazy.
I love the sports. I've always like being competitive, and I think also, I mean, people can say this is very textbook kind of answer and kind of a churchy answer, but I think for the betterment of the team, you're a good team player. That speaks to your character. It's not. I mean, I hate this whole self-aggrandizing me first. I understand. Ultimately, you are in charge of your life and it's your decisions, but that to me just. I mean, that's selfish. I mean, I think it's no different than a pro player, regardless if you're getting paid right now or next year or 2 years from now. I just think you're
We should revisit this topic.
Yeah, I agree. I just
disagree.
Quick
That was-
controversy. After Joey Bosa, when he was at Ohio State at the time, saw Jalen Smith destroy his knee, he purposely targeted Deshaun Kaiser in that game just to get himself thrown out of the football game so he wouldn't risk injury. That's why he was like, you know what, I'm going to throw my helmet right into the crown of Deshaun's head because I feel bad for Jalen and I don't want to get hurt like him. Easy way out. Then you don't have to just retire like his brother did. So
that's just selfishness on selfishness.
we're going to get back to this topic.
lot of
All I want you to
self-finish.
know is that I completely
It is
disagree with
self-finish.
everything you've just said.
All right, let's
right.
talk about some more hateable athletes.
Jonathan, who are your most hateable athletes? Give us one or two.
So number one, I've got to give our folks and friends up north some love with our sport of hockey. Brad Marchand
Yes.
sucks.
Yeah.
He's in with it's different. It's all types of sports. Okay, Brad Marchand is a winger for the Boston Bruins. He's about 5'6".
Pretty much everybody on the Boston Bruins could be the most hateable athlete of all
True.
time.
However, Brad Marchand.
Is he a goon?
He is.
Would you call him
he
a
is
goon?
what you would call a goon, a punk, perhaps a cake eater. So
If you guys have ever watched Mighty Ducks,
if you know anything about hockey, every team's got a goon, and you need to have a goon on your team. And if you're a fan of that team, you love said goon. If he's not on your team, you absolutely hate him and hate everything he stands for and does. Brad Marchand last year had 3 instances where he either kissed or licked players on their cheeks in scuffles, or as they call it up north, Donnybrooks, or Tommy Two Toes in Canada. So, I mean, I don't know any grown
I've
man.
never heard any of these words.
I get it. I'm tracking. It's kind of like Sunshine when he kissed Gary
right.
Bertier.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
I'm
Except
That kind
tracking.
of brought the whole team together. That's a
Except
major
Sunshine
plot
was
point.
actually a homosexual. Brad Marchand's just doing it to try and
just
get into
gay.
some. He's just gay. Brad Marchand's doing it just to try and get into someone's head, which is just a really weird way of trying to be a goon. If you're going to be a goon, sucker punch somebody. Don't lick them in the face. He licked Leo Komarov of the Toronto Maple Leafs in the face, and I think that that's just despicable. And if he ever did that to a Chicago Blackhawk, I would personally challenge him to a fight.
You would
Okay,
lose.
that's.
I feel like he would
I
lose
love
a fight
that.
with
I
a
love
professional
that.
hockey player.
Is that gonna be your one and only, or do you have another one to throw in there?
Number 2 is Matt Leinart. I hate it. I actually hated Matt Leinart when he was at
Yeah,
USC.
that's a good one.
I mean,
hated
as
him
He
too.
did beat up on Notre Dame.
As a Notre Dame
Yeah,
fan,
that
like
was
yeah,
fair.
in 04,
Yeah,
like
was
03,
Was that
04.
the push?
So ultimately
Big
this comes
NFL
from
career, though.
ultimately comes from the Bush push because like Reggie Bush was undoubtedly like one of the best running backs in NCAA history. Like he was just an athlete. Matt Leinart was also a great quarterback, but he was also a jackwagon. And
I enjoyed watching him, but
I
I didn't play him,
remember as like a 10 or 11-year-old that game, just sitting there like just
Producer
crying.
Dave is losing it over here.
Good thing we don't have a mic over there.
I just remember sitting there
Cracking.
crying as like an 11-year-old as Matt Leinart got pushed into that end zone, just thinking like, God, you son of a bitch. This is like Notre Dame was about to be back, and now they're not back. And then after the game, they were interviewing him. They're like, Matt, what's your take on this game? He literally said on NBC, I don't give a about Notre Dame. I was like, oh my God, this gentleman. Ever since then.
I forgot about that he was caught.
That's funny
saying
because I wasn't a big college football fan back then. So like all I really know about Matt Leinart is him being like a pretty below average NFL.
Now he's on
quarterback.
Fox Sports.
So to me, it's funny. It'd be like, who's your least favorite player of all time? It's like Blaine Gabbert. Like, screw that guy. Like what?
Yeah,
What has he done
That's
that
a
made
good
him
one, though,
hateable?
John. I mean, I'm right there with you. Growing up as a Notre Dame fan, he gave us fits, and he wasn't a particularly nice guy when he did it. So
He made me throw a fit.
yeah,
That's why I hated him.
so that's a good one.
Fun fact: the superintendent of my high school is his uncle.
I bet you
Pretty cool.
he's a nicer guy than Matt.
He was a pretty nice guy. He's my mom's boss. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's nice.
good, nice guy.
That's good.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up with my least favorite athletes of all time. I would say that the first one, and I know that I've kind of addressed this on a previous podcast, is Serena Williams. I cannot stand
That's a
Serena
very edgy
Williams
pick.
because of everything, the way that she carries herself both on and off the court, the things that she has said in the quote-unquote the heat of the moment. It's like, well, other players are in similar situations and still manage not to come off and say that, right? So the way that she carries herself, the way that she answers questions in media press conferences, all of that kind of stuff I attribute to my dislike of her as an athlete. The other one, which is pretty easy pickings here, is Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod,
that's another one.
just the fact. I mean, the fact that he was a cheater and denied it and all this kind of stuff when he was on the Rangers, and then when he went to the Yankees, and then the fact that he was a Yankee. I mean, Yankees are like Roger Clemens. It's very same type of rap, I guess you would say. But the fact that he's on the Yankees makes him that much easier to hate.
Sure.
So that's
Also,
my take.
honorable mention to Bryce Harper.
Yes.
I think
Yeah, I was going to go Bryce Harper. but
Yeah,
that
I was thought it seemed
new
like
age.
Yeah.
However, if Bryce Harper was on your favorite baseball team, would you still hate him?
Oh, I would love.
We
that.
have it.
I was brave. I
I
would
buy
be-
his jersey.
I would love Bryce Harper so much.
Oh,
if he was
yeah.
a Brave.
Off-season
he's-
2018, 2019 is going to be
It's
fun.
going to be big,
folks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Freddie's pushing for him.
I saw that little
Yeah.
ESPN article. Doubt that happened.
What a strange
Dude,
timeline.
that would be awesome.
That
How
would
about
be an
Chris
interesting-
Bryant not re-signing the extension for $200 million?
That's a Scott Boras. That's an agent thing. That's not a Chris Bryant thing. Also, fun fact: Chris Bryant and Bryce Harper spent time in Las Vegas together. So, welcome Bryce Harper to the Chicago
Chicago
Cubs.
Cubs. He could be on the Cubs
Oh,
here.
There you go.
Just
next
kidding.
season.
I don't think so, but we'll see.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here tonight. From all of us on American Pylon and my brother John and his friends over at Getting Tops, we want to thank you again for joining us tonight. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Be sure to check us out. Our partners at Freeman State Farm and In We Go. Be sure to check them out. From all of us here, thanks again for joining us, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.